and welcome to Virtual Vines. You might sit there saying, well, wait a minute. Where's T? He's on his way. TC's on his way. But I thought I'd get the show started for you tonight as people are coming in and do a couple of housekeeping things for the show tonight. And we have some really, really, really cool events coming up that I want to talk about. So let me do a little screen share here so that you can see the events I want to talk about here. And that is, first up, we're going to be doing a blind wine tasting, here in the shop. And that is going to be on April the 18th. There'll be 3 seatings like we've been doing for a lot of our in-shop tastings. So that noon to 1:50 and 2 to 3:50 and 4 to 5:50, and you'll be able to keep the glass. We're going to do these in this blind tasting in these black glasses that you see on the screen there, so that you'll get to keep the glass at the end of the tasting. We're going to taste 5 wines, and the cool thing is you won't know if they're red or white. So that's the fun part about this tasting is it's going to be completely blind to you. So you'll get to taste these varietals, and so. Yeah, some could be red, some could be white. You're going to have to make that guess at that. TC's here. TC Fraizer from Tryon Distributing. As always, it's great to have you back.
A.K.A. Magellan.
Magellan. The other big event that we just put up on our website is Tapas on the Patio. We'll be with this guy right here and us over at the Porterhouse Burger Company over on West Market Street. As you can see, this is one of the ones we did was the Italian dinner. So now we're going to do Tapas on the Patio. And this is already selling really crazy already. So if you haven't bought tickets and you're watching the show, this might be something you want to add in your cart before you leave tonight. It's going to be Wednesday, April 28th from 6:30. But due to seating on the patio and keeping everybody socially distanced in their group, I can only have 30 people out there. So you're definitely going to want to get on that. Obviously, our rain thing is we'll move inside, but it's all going to be tapas style plates and Spanish wine.
Yeah.
So
amazing. Hopefully the weather hold up. I mean, the way it's been, fingers crossed, we'll have a nice little dinner outside. I'm glad you guys took some pictures of the food last time. So that just amazing. Just heightened by the experience of the people. The ambiance. Being outside. It was a beautiful October day.
And it's gonna probably be a beautiful spring day.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of April. So we're hoping for a nice evening on the patio. And it should be a lot of fun. And that is $60 for non-members, $55 for wine club members. Again, it's gonna be 5 small plates paired with wine. We're gonna hit a little upper echelon, some wines in there too, because we got a little extra room in the budget to do that. So definitely enjoy that.
Didn't do the old buttons.
You didn't do buttons. What did you do? Oh my gosh!
I'm still not even prepared.
You're not even prepared.
Look at that.
Happened?
I'm so unkept.
What happened?
Look at this guy over here. I can't find my way around. Can't button my own shirt. Look at this.
Well,
all right, there we go.
We have a lot in store for you today. We have an amazing lineup of wines. As some of you folks will probably already know because you've been tasting these in our wine club. We just had the Cristo. We're going to talk about it. We're not going to taste it tonight, but we're going to talk about the Cristo. We've had the Roman Zin from Marietta in the club. So now we're going to talk about a little bit more. But first, I want to bring in the importer, the man that makes this happen in our region. He works with the Wine and Spirit 2020 Importer of the Year, Vinous, everybody's friend and neighborly wine guy. Welcome to the show, Christophe. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Danny.
Santé, buddy. What's up? How are you doing?
Hi, TC. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for having me again.
Welcome to the show. Good to have you back. A lot of folks I know are tuning in tonight just because they knew you were coming on the show. You are a fan favorite. So
that's great.
And from what I heard, not here yet, but we have another special guest coming as well.
Yes, I've brought some company, and I'm super excited because this is Marietta's national sales director, who recently moved not too far away from us, and is based out of Charleston. And Brian Lynch is going to be joining us in a few minutes. So super excited about showing the Marietta Cellars lineup.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, and Christophe, I mean, you guys know, I mean, with the amazing portfolio of you and then Tryon, I'd say for well on a decade that I've been with Tryon, I mean, Marietta has been, if I could just be a little braggadocious just for 2 seconds here, just not just because everybody's watching, but I mean, hey, just because, I mean, ultimately it's about what sells and what the customer's like. And, one of the first days and weeks of getting a sample budget in Tryon, pulling a bottle of Marietta Old Vine Red. And as you know, Christophe, it's about what customers like and not, I mean, knowing the wines of my portfolio, but really not knowing what I know now. Certainly, Marietta has always been a go-to, and I've loved to see how this brand's evolved and grown and built in the state. And I'm so glad it's with you guys. I'm so glad you have Brian and somebody from the winery that kind of articulate and put a pinpoint on all the great superlatives that we love to give this winery, because there are many.
There are many. And so Brian's here, so let's bring Brian onto the show. Brian Lynch, welcome to Virtual Vines. And thank you for taking some time out of your night to talk about these amazing wines that we've come to love. We've had 2 of your wines in our wine club over the last couple of years. So we're just excited to have you along to kind of give us the story and what goes into these amazing wines that you guys make.
Sure. Thanks very much for having me on. Gosh, I think, you start with a guy like Chris Bilbrough, who decided after growing up in northern Sonoma and Geyserville and being raised by his aunt, his great aunt, Marietta, and his uncle Armé, who were Italian immigrants coming over from Italy and settling up in northern Sonoma. They were people of the land, as were a lot of people back then, and didn't go to the grocery store for anything but flour and sugar. So Chris grew up foraging, hunting, fishing, and farming. And, along with making charcuterie and cheese and milking cows and goats and sheep, they made their own wine. And Chris stayed very attached to that, even though he was working outside of the business, but fell in love with the business, had a whole lot of contacts of local farmers and friends and relatives that actually had 1 or 2 acres on their property of grapes. Most people didn't want to go through the process of harvesting them, maintaining them, and doing that. So he found a lot of fallow fields where he could prune, take care of, and eventually harvest and crush his own juice. And that was kind of the beginning of Old Vine Red, because most of these vines weren't identifiable. And quite honestly, we still have about 5 acres of mixed blacks on the McDowell property that we haven't completely figured out what they are yet. And we know they're probably a mix of Mission and Barbera. We know we've identified the Grenache Gris, the Grenache Noir, and the Syrah, which you'll taste exclusively in the rosé. But Chris started blending these wines and then saw that this was an opportunity for a business, and started traveling the country and selling his wares, mostly with a backpack full of boar sausage that he had made. And he would sit down with local retailers and restaurateurs and kind of let them taste through. And that was the origin of the winery.
Wow. Let's go right into that and start with the rosé. Let's since you've already kind of hit on the rosé a little bit about the blocks that were out there. Let's start with that. We'll get a little in our glass here.
To show that they're Old Vine. I mean, a fairly, I think, 4th or 5th vintage at least out to the market, if I'm correct, Brian. And I think you guys have really every year just really dialed it in. And if I'm not mistaken, I know the Bilbroughs were kind of like anything else, the first time you make it, we can do better. And it seems like every year, I mean, I'm so impressed to see the lineage of this wine and dialing in and really with the vines you guys are working with. And of course, full disclosure, to me, rosé should always be made with Grenache something, right? So, I mean, that's just my personal preference. So I just love how you guys are really dialing this one in. So.
Yeah, this, I was out at the winery blending this a couple of months ago, and I've been in the business my entire life. I've been in the business for since I was in my late teens, and I was really surprised at how much work Marietta puts into finalizing blends. I mean, Scott is amazingly collaborative in that the winemaker, John, Scott, myself, the vineyard manager, sit down and we started with this wine with about 30 different samples. And that was Grenache, Grenache Noir, Grenache Gris, there was Zinfandel, there was Barbera, all of it that we either direct pressed or made a little contact juice to see where it would take the final blend. And we started with about 30 samples and narrowed that down. And lo and behold, at the end of the day, it's 50-50 Syrah and Grenache. And I completely agree with you that, Grenache lends itself to make absolutely pretty and beautiful rosé. So, we came up with this, if I could be bold enough, Bandolesque or at least Provençal style of rosé that's got great acidity. And that comes from this property. The amazing thing about these three ranches is, as different as they are from a soil perspective and location, they all have one thing in common, and that's massive diurnal swings in temperature. So, during August and September, we're getting up to 100 during the day, but almost all, without exception, the three ranches drop into the 50s at night. So you have a 50-degree swing in diurnals, which really allows the vines to relax, shut down, and rejuvenate for the next day of growing and maturation. The end result essentially is that in almost all cases we wind up with phenolic maturity before we wind up with sugar. So we don't have to worry about losing acidity. The grapes preserve a great amount of acidity, so we never have to add acid, and you wind up with rosé with incredible balance. I think it's an interesting thing because we're in a market now where everybody on the planet is releasing pink wine, and it's that whiff of artificial lemon juice that I seem to get in so many of them that is indicative of somebody taking grapes that had lost all of their acidity and making pink wine out of it.
This is lovely, and if I'm not mistaken, we're drinking on the 2019 vintage here. Yep, this is the one that you guys won the San Francisco Wine Chronicle. No,
yeah, I believe so. I believe so. It was Wine Enthusiast, I think 91 points as well. If you're a point chaser, but the wine's incredibly balanced, and I challenge people to, in my past history at Kermit Lynch, the goal and the idea was to save rosé and watch it change and watch it improve and watch it balance itself. And we're right at home right now. We're drinking 2014s, and they're absolutely delicious. So I think that's something that we should recommend to customers as well. As this, you don't have to chase the new release. There's tons of opportunity and time for well-made rosé to continue in its evolution for 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, this is probably one of my faves that we've been carrying in the shop from California, and I recommend it all the time because it is absolutely delicious. It goes down. It's got the beautiful little light strawberry notes. It's clean mouthfeel, refreshing. And now that it's like 70 degrees out here in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I know it's probably a little warmer where you are down in Charleston. So this is the time to be pulling out those rosés. And with Easter being this coming weekend, this is an excellent wine to have on the Easter table with just as a starter or just throughout the day drinking wine. It's going to be perfect for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's great about
it?
Go ahead,
Christophe.
You are drinking the very last of 2019 because officially we are sold out. The winery is sold out. So as of next month, Tryon will be showing the 2020 vintage.
All right, so we'll have a new vintage here probably in a month. So anybody ordering today is probably going to get the 19s. Hopefully, fingers crossed that we have enough in inventory to do that for you, depending on how much everybody orders tonight. But yeah, this is excellent choice to go with if you're having ham, if you're doing deviled eggs, or you're doing salads. This is going to pair with everything, and you're just going to love it on the table. I can tell you right now. Tanya's already come in twice and topped off her class. So for the ladies out there, Tanya's enjoying this.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll say, and that I'm sure you and Brian and Christophe will say probably at nauseum tonight is, the price point to quality ratio. I mean, I think that can't be lost. I mean, when we talk about third generation, which, you talk about California, we carry some of those old houses, and even the old houses are 5, 6 generation, and nothing to take away from them. But we think about, as Brian just said, kind of these very humble beginnings to where, this sort of I mean, if you drink enough wine, to me, especially in California, from the North Coast, Marietta. And when you talk about old vine red, there's no, they're not really taking a license with that. I mean, this is truly these, as Brian said, these kind of tucked away, planted grapes from generations ago. For you're scrolling on the price, $16. So it's just, I probably can't say that enough tonight with everything that we're having, but with this rosé, as Brian's saying, drinking so well right now, $16 minus. I think you're giving another discount on top of that.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys
for most
better
folks watching, they're getting a club discount. So 18 down to 16 plus your club discount. So go over to loadedgrape.com, throw this in your cart. You're gonna love it. You're gonna want to have it. You might want to throw at this price, throw 2 bottles in your cart, maybe 3, depending on who you have coming over for Easter. Because you're gonna go through it. You were gonna go through it, and at 16 plus your discounts, it's a great deal. And everything that you order will be available on Wednesday at 4:00 for pickup. So so go ahead and start there. Gentlemen, what would you like to go to next? Would you like to do the Old Vine Red next?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go to Old Vine Red.
TC, you'd mentioned and Old Vine, that it's legit Old Vine, because it's always a fascinating thing in the wine world.
The new world, it's just, you might as well be a car salesman when you say Old Vine sometimes, right? But it truly is, and I think you guys are trying to take the brand, you're taking it back, and that's what I love. It's like, hey guys, that Old Vine term's been bastardized in California. We need to kind of collectively bring it back together, and that's what I love about Marietta. It's like they're just beating that drum one bottle at a time,
If you've got a property that's 12 years old and you replanted stuff 5 years ago, the 12-year-old vines are old vines. And,
exactly.
I used to deal with a gentleman in the Rhone, and I said, how do you determine old vine? And he says, well, Brian, old vine for me is 56 years old. And I said, why? And he says, I'm 55. So there's really no law, but the fascinating thing is a lot of what's in that 2019 rosé is coming from really old vine. And when I say really old vine, I mean those vines at Syrah, that Grenache Gris, those things were planted during the gold rush. Wow. So we have vines on the property coming on their 140th birthday, which is truly old vine. And these are head pruned, dry farmed products that a lot of these vines stand 8 to 10 feet tall, and they're giving us 3/4 of a ton to 1.25 tons an acre. And if you were a modern day viticulturist, you would say, yank those things out. We need 4 to 6 tons. But it's the Bilbros work in a very different manner, and they take care of their lands. They don't, we're not hiring people and crews to come through temporarily to pick for us. We've got full-time employees all year round. We have a lot of people on the crew, and I think we're tasting Roman tonight. Roman's been there with Chris since the beginning. So the average employees have been for well over 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Here's somebody can see.
Yeah. All right, so we have the lot number 71 California red wine.
Somebody just chimed in and said lot number 9. Man, God, so when was the very first lot, Brian? I mean, I think when I started with Tryon, God, it seems like many hair follicles ago. I think I was circa lot, I don't know, 40 something maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know when what year this kind of came out.
So I was in the retail business back in the mid 80s, and I seem to remember, lot number 9 or lot number 10. And I believe the first lot number 1 was 1982.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
So it's been around for quite a long time. We generally release 2 lots a year. And as you'll notice, there's no vintage on this bottle. And this, again, kind of sprung from Chris Bilbro's desire to create a wine that was good for the table that night. So as Scott will tell you, that his dad would, he'd fire up the grill, and maybe he'd be making beef ribs or pork ribs on the grill, and he would disappear out to the winery and start to pull from different tanks, create a blend that he felt matched that night's dinner, and boom, this style of blending was born for him. So one thing we notice is that on our property, young Zinfandel is super uber bright because we've got a lot of Zin planted in sandy soil, so it's really well drained. So we get all of these bright characters in our Zinfandel. The Syrah takes a little more time to really become a great addition to that Zin when we're blending it. So, and then if you're Petite Syrah familiar out there, you probably understand that they can be absolute tannic monsters in their youth. So what you're experiencing in this glass is 2018 Zinfandel, 2017 Syrah, and 2016 Petite Syrah.
Wow.
So that's really the basis for the OVR Reds. And then depending on the vintage, we're probably going to add a little bit of Grenache for nuance and aromatics, and then probably a little Barbera for realistically the same reason, is again to bring up the aromatics in the wine.
This is tasty.
Well, it's just fun. I mean, every time you pull it, you make friends. I mean, just about every restaurant I could name that, again, I think they've redefined not only that, because I know red blend category, it is what it is, but, when non-vintage, and that's what's so great about it. Not saying that the first, the only ones, I mean, that's kind of the way it was done. But again, when you see, not only a lot of red blends, but, more non-vintage red blends, and you said 82, I can't think of many non-vintage red blends that were intentionally made to be as such and marketed as such as long. I mean, so again, these guys have really defined that market. And to me, I'm like, hey, if you're going to have a true California red blend on your list or on your table, I mean, this one right here is just fantastic.
It is really, really. I again, as we, not
only a blend of different varietals, but different vintages as well.
I'm gonna say this, because this is, we got Easter coming up. It's just Sunday. This is a very much of a crowd pleasing red blend that you could throw on the table for those people who just looking for a nice red wine. It's got good fruit up front, very nice mid palate, not overly tannic, nice finish as well. That finish is nice and smooth, not a big bite. Just a beautiful made wine, Brian. This is definitely, and for the price at $16 a bottle.
Would you say it's a pit pounder?
It's a pit pounder. It's a porch pounder. I know we're going to go
cast a wide net. That's what I love about this wine.
We're going to go up the.
You're not sure what to have. I mean, obviously Easter's coming up, or really what level or scale, how tannic or how jammy, juicy they like their wine. Right. This is the wine that it's
kind of right down the middle.
Yeah,
it's 400-yard, Dustin Johnson drive right down the middle. It's a chip shot and a putt, and you got a par. I mean, this is you got a birdie. I mean, this is it. This is the wine to get for those people who are looking
$16, man.
Looking to be a little budgie friendly on this Easter. This is the one. Go out and put this in your cart. Put it in your cart.
The fun thing here is, generally at the holiday table, you've got non-wine drinkers, novice wine drinkers, weekly wine drinkers, and serious wine drinkers. And I think, us in the business, we can sit here and taste this wine and go, gosh, I can drink this. I can drink lots of this. And I think you get the same reaction from people that haven't drunk a whole lot of wine either. It's so friendly. It's so upfront. There's not much in the way of tannin, but there sure is great acidity. So you don't get tired of drinking it after a glass. And I think, unfortunately, many of, the current wines that fit in that quote unquote red blend category are holding way too much sugar to beg a second glass. I'm trying to get the world to turn us over to proprietary red instead of a red blend, because I just think that there's a stigma that goes on that red blend name that we no longer fit in.
Yeah. Someone wanted to know if you made a straight Barbera.
No, and it's not that we won't. We currently make 9 wines under the Marietta envelope, and we have the Old Vine series, and then the Family series, and the Estate series that we'll taste through tonight. And there's nothing out of consideration, but we want to make sure if we're going to do something like that, that we put the time and effort into creating something truly unique and truly individual, and something that we're incredibly proud of, I guess you can say. If you look at the way that we label our wines, there's a name or an association to every wine that Marietta makes. So we're paying tribute to that person or that place, and we want to make sure that we're making something that absolutely justifies the Marietta name.
Absolutely.
Well, that answers that question and put right the way it needed to be put.
I love that.
This is, folks, go over to the website, throw a couple of bottles on of this, a couple of bottles of rosé, because you're gonna love these. You're gonna love these. And the next one we're gonna talk about, we just saw some photos of those Old Vine Zin. We're gonna talk about that, the Ramon. This is one that I think we were first year of being a wine shop and having a wine club. We grabbed this and put this in the club, and it was a hit because it still moves off the shelf because everybody remembers it, or someone says, "Hey, I'm looking for a good Zin tonight." Oh, just grab it because it is a great Zin, and we have a lot of Zin drinkers in our shop now. People loving on Zinfandel. And so you pull that up there right now, and we'll let you talk a little bit about the Zin.
Well, what do you think, Brian? Yeah, we have the Zin, the Game Trail, and the Syrah. I was thinking the Zin maybe, but I mean, is there different directions?
Yeah, I would definitely do them in that order. I would do Zin and then Game Trail and then Gibson Black.
Yeah, well, and not to kind of steal probably your thunder, what you want to say. What I love about it so much is, again, we've kind of been conditioned as consumers as the Zin is this big. I mean, it's just even for better or for worse, But I love this is that refresher I can give to the chef, the som that kind of says kind of poo-poos anything over 14.5, and I get it. You serve whitefish and ceviche galore, which is fantastic. But this is the Zinfandel that reminds me of that old school style. It's just more minimalist. As you said, named after one of your oldest employees of the company, but it's just the Zinfandel comes through. And I think someone asked about Barbera, that it's a Scotia that Barbera goes into it. But I love to throw this in Zin tastings, and for people that don't quote unquote aren't Zin fans, but people that do love Zin can appreciate it and really like it too. So,
it's to me, it's a really fascinating varietal, because I think along with Sauvignon Blanc, there's the potential to make so many styles that it can be ultimately confusing for the consumer, because he goes in and buys a bottle of Zinfandel that he likes, and he goes and buys another bottle of Zinfandel and doesn't like it. Where Chardonnay seems to have at least some sort of consistency across flavor or aromatics or texture. As I explained before, the property is this particular piece, which is coming predominantly from the Angeli Ranch and from McDowell. You're dealing in old riverbed soil, so you have a lot of sand. It's incredibly well drained. So what we gain phenolic maturity, and we don't have to wait for huge bricks. So, and usually, just to explain, most of the time where Zinfandel is grown in either Napa or Sonoma, you're hitting sugar way before you're hitting maturity. And that's why you're seeing these wines of 17.5% alcohol. But what happens when you get that ripe, when you get up over 23.5, 24 bricks, is you start losing tons of acid. And I think as you taste this wine has great acidity. It's got great rip. And what I also like is picking at those levels, allow a lot of the red fruits that Zinfandel can relay to come really shining through. So we've got this bright cranberry-ish, Bing cherry type of wine that's got great acidity. And I think it has really fine texture and never gets heavy on your palate.
No.
And that to me what kept me away from drinking a lot of Zinfandel for most of my career is that the wines were thick. Also, I think really important, and this is a great time to point this out, as we go from this wine into even some of the bigger wines, there's no new wood at Marietta. We use no new barrels at all. We have so much faith in our viticultural practices, which are 100% organic. We do very little farming by tractor. Almost everything is done by hand. And we have these great properties to work off and mature product to work off it. You know, I always look at wood like salt, and there's so many opportunities to over salt. So we feel that we've got great enough fruit that all we need is oxidation from barrel. And I think it really shows here in that there's no masking of this as Zinfandel, and Zinfandel in a really fine form. We don't need that vanillin. We don't need that chocolate that so many wines offer you by adding that big addition of wood.
Absolutely.
No, you don't. And this, with that little touch of the Petite Syrah to add a little bit more color, and the Barbera to add a little bit more, mouthfeel. I think you hit a home run. It's a home run. It's a home run. I'm thinking in my head right now, like, are we, a little pork chop? Are we doing maybe grilling out with something with a barbecue sauce or something a little more tangy to kind of have the back and forth, because
very
he hit it
friendly.
with the bin cherry and the cranberry.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there.
Yeah, and I love to experiment with barbecue with this wine as well, because this wine goes from dry rub to vinegar to mustard.
Balsamic glaze. I was thinking like a caprese salad with like a little drizzle, like a balsamic glaze on top, because the acidity pops, and like a nice, nice ripe heirloom tomatoes, some nice mozzarella from your favorite cheesemonger, and nice little aged balsamic drizzle on top or something like that. I think you can go.
Absolutely.
But what's also really cool about it, and again, what I love about the branding and some of the new labels, you can show this one a little bit closer. This one has the Virgin de Guadalupe, which I know is a little heritage to Ramon, which I think is the third employee at the company. And if I'm not mistaken, and probably correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I may have just dreamt this up, but didn't the Bilbros asked him to create a wine, and then when he did, we're going to name this after you? Or did I make that up to some degree? I don't know. I mean, because he worked there so long.
No.
Up, and they said, okay, craft a wine. Okay, now we're going to, I don't know, maybe a romantic story I dreamt up at some point, but I just thought
you did not. I mean, Ramon came to work for the winery, I want to say when he was 14 or 15 or 16. And his dad told him that it was time to quit school and help support the family. Oh. And after a few years, Ramon made an agreement with his father that he would continue to work and support the family, but all of his other brothers and sisters needed to finish school. And Ramon, in turn, over the course of years, paid for all of his brothers and sisters to go through college. Wow. So the dude is just a total thumbs up guy, who is our winery manager. He manages all the tanks, the barrels, and the operations in the winery. So when Scott came up with this plan and this idea, what he did was make sure that anything from tank transfers to tank to barrel to blending to anything Roman was in front of and in charge of and responsible for. And he had no idea that Scott's intention was to name this wine after him. So it was a huge surprise to him, and a source of great pride for him, and incredibly well deserved for his contributions to Marietta over the course of the years.
Yeah. Well, and again, just show, I mean, people always go, ask, us as in, like, hey, what are you guys drinking? As in, like, we're supposed to know more than whatever, but at the end of the day, I think what he just said is, here's a guy that basically has been in the industry, has wine under his fingernails, and this is what they drink, quote unquote. So if you guys want to know what, the cool kids drink, whatever those people are, because we all know farming's hard work, it's labor intensive. I know we want to go to dinners and wear our fancy suits, and it's a beautiful thing in the bottle. But, when people always go, what do you guys drink? I'm like, hey guys, what, I'm thinking, what do these guys drink? Because I want to get in their head. And that's what I love so much about this wine is it tickles the hedonistic sense, not only from the Zinfandel aspect, but also from the lineage of the Bilbros and Roman himself. So yeah, so just a salute all around. And we haven't even talked about the price. Dude, $20 for this wine? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, $20 plus your club discounts. It's a great deal tonight. Take advantage of it. Grab a couple of bottles. At least I'm going to say that throughout the whole show. Before we move on to the game trail, we just had last month in the wine club the Courteaud. And I just want, if you could talk about it for a second, and I'm going to put a little special price on this tonight. So if folks want to buy the Courteaud, you could throw that in your cart as well. 23 down to 21 plus your club discounts. So yeah, Brian, tell us a little bit about the Courteaud.
You got it. I mean, $21 for that for Courteaud is amazing. Because I think, I was on a call last night, and a gentleman that was a tried and true Southern Rhone drinker paid us a pretty amazing compliment in saying that this has to be the best under $25 bottle I've ever consumed. And he says, I have a cellar full of Chateauneuf du Pape. And, I would never say that we're going after a French style of wine. I would never say that we are, a European winemaker. I think that we recognize that we have a foot in the new world and a foot in the old world. And that goes from how we grow, how we harvest, how we blend, and how we look at wine as a whole. And if OVR is the heart of the winery, it keeps blood flowing at the winery. It keeps us, moving some volume. Courteaud is the soul, and Courteaud is named after Scott's dad, Chris Bilbro, who I imagine that first lunch when Scott showed him this label and tasted this wine with him, he was probably incredibly embarrassed and said, "Don't you dare do that." But from Scott, his dad just absolutely thought the wine was delicious and humbly accepted his name on a label. And Scott's dad spent a whole lot of time in Champagne and in the Rhone when he was figuring out what he wanted to do in wine, and became a massive Syrah fan. So Courteaud is predominantly Syrah. It comes from all three of the ranches, and I don't think I've spoken directly to the ranches. We have about 40 acres planted in Geyserville, and that's the home ranch. That's the Angeli Ranch. We have another 40 up in the Yorkville Highlands. And for those that don't know where they are, because it's a rather obscure appellation, Yorkville Highlands is in southwestern Mendocino. We are just east of the ridge that separates the Highlands from Anderson. So Anderson Valley is the next ridge over. We're about 15 miles from the ocean. On a clear day on your tippy toes, you can see the ocean from the top of the property. But Yorkville is incredibly unique in that we're at 1,400 feet elevation, planted essentially in rock and sandstone with little to no subsoil. And we grow some amazing Cabernet up there, and you'll taste that pretty soon. And then the third and the biggest ranch is McDowell. And we've got 300 acres under vine in McDowell and about 40 acres that are fallow right now. And we're collectively trying to figure out what we're going to plant up there. And I am really hard pushing for some Mourvedre and maybe a little Vermentino. But we'll see what we plant up there in the future. But McDowell is a really interesting AVA because it's a complete bowl surrounded by hillside. And we own about 95% of the appellation. So we've got an amazing property to work off of, and everything from newly planted vines to vines in their 140th leaf.
Wow.
So Christo comes from all three. The Syrah in the glass that you're tasting is also co-fermented with a little bit of Viognier. There's about 3 or 4% Viognier in here, depending on the vintage, which is not uncommon in the Rhone, nor is it uncommon in a lot of Australian Syrah. And I was always under the impression that what you were trying to do was boost the aromatics of Syrah, but realistically, Syrah is kind of the Riesling of the red wine world, if you will, aromatically. You get such a diversity of aromatics here, everything from bacon fat to lavender to white pepper. What the Viognier also does, and this happens whenever you're fermenting white wine with red wine, is it sets the color deeper than you would through a normal fermentation. So what you'll notice in wines that have a little bit of white in their red, if they are co-fermented, that color is going to hold for many more years than it would otherwise. So really interesting little chemical reaction that happens there.
This is why we do the show, because we geek out into the winemaking, not just what's in the glass and how it tastes and everything else. We geek out on that, and that is something new. I didn't know that, because to me, I always thought it's aromatics or it's for to soften tannin or any of that stuff. But I would not have thought to hold color for a longer period of time. So there you go. I learned something. Look at that.
Really fascinating.
Yeah, it's so fascinating.
So that Syrah and Viognier are supplemented with about 25 to 30% Grenache, depending on the vintage. And what the Grenache really does is really brighten the Syrah, give it some polish, and it brings red berry into what otherwise would be pretty dark, earthy. In Syrah, I get a lot of kind of northern Washington island fruits: loganberry, marionberry, boysenberry. The Syrah, the Grenache brings some brightness there, a little bramble, a little bit of greenness, which I really appreciate in good red wine. And then we add a little bit of Petit to bring a blue kind of character to it. Petit tends to have a lot of blueberry, plum, and fruits of that nature. So I find that on the palate here, you have a really, really broad wine that just drinks incredibly well.
It does, and our wine club members went crazy on it. I think we did. I think in a normal month, it's 5 to 7 cases. I think we were pushing 10 cases of Christo, because everybody was just selecting that over other wines in the club, and it's just one of those wines. The reason I even got in the club was previously I did a private tasting, and I used it in there, and it was everything that they were doing was so expensive. I wanted to bring something that was a little bit more price, mid-20 price range, and end up being the hit of the show. Over Russian River Pinot Noirs and Alexander Valley Cabs, it stole the show. And at this price point, if we were drinking it right now and people come to the shop and drink it, it could steal the show again, because it's just an amazing, amazing red wine. So
thank you.
There we go.
So let's move on to the game trail.
Is that the next one, game trail? You want to do the game trail, or do you Gibson block?
Let's do the game trail.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. So this is another one that we love in the shop. For those folks that are loving on a little bit of estate grown Cabernet Sauvignon. Brian, go ahead. Tell us a little bit more about this one.
So I had started to mention the Yorkville Highlands, and this is all Yorkville Highlands fruit. And I know it looks sometimes like I'm staring off into space, and I'll explain that I've got 3 screens going here so I can look at you guys in multiple different ways.
He's got the Nikkei index on one. He's got the FTSE on the other. He's got Bitcoin on the cryptocurrency. I mean, this guy's got his hand in everything.
Well, Alita mentioned Eastern Carolina barbecue, so I was kind of looking at a little barbecue too because I'm kind of hungry. So,
there you go.
And yes, when I did say vinegar, I did mean Eastern Carolina barbecue. So I hope that answers the question. So Game Trail. Game Trail is probably it's our smallest production, unfortunately, because we've only got about 20 acres Cabernet up there. But this is all off of Yorkville Highlands. So you've got Cabernet growing at 1,400 feet elevation in a climate that would be considered fairly cool. The other thing that's incredibly special about this is it's all Clone 6. And that might not mean anything to anybody right now, but it should by the end of the conversation. Because if you look up Clone 6 Cabernet, you'll find that our friends over in Napa Valley absolutely love Clone 6. And they love Clone 6 for one reason and one reason only. It's incredibly diverse as far as flavor and character are concerned. What you get here is a lot more earth, forest. There's a lot of complexity that happens with this grape. And as I go back and do research as to the history in Clone 6, I think Louis Latour was the first one to plant it here in the States, but suspicion is that it came from Margaux and particularly came from Chateau Margaux. So it's one of those few Cabernet clones that really, quite honestly, can handle itself at 95 to 100% Cabernet. And in this case, I think we're looking at 100% Cab. But if you look at Schrader or Colgan or Harlan or Beckstoffer or Tokelon, those wines are predominantly, if not 100% Clone 6, and they charge $250 to $1,000 a bottle for it. So when you find a wine like this that is actually selling for under $50, it's kind of nutty. And the nuttiness continues on with how this grape grows. So if you think about a typical bunch of Cabernet, let's say C's 300 clone, which they grow predominantly in Stag's Leap. The bunches are super tight. They're super heavy. The Cabernet is like the size of your pinky nail. And they're incredibly compact. When you look at Clone 6, again, as if I was a new buyer of a winery and I walked through and I saw Clone 6 hanging on the vine, I would tell them to tear it out and put something else in there. Because in Clone 6, none of the berries touch each other. It looks like a shot bunch. It looks like 3/4 of it's missing. But the beauty of that is because you don't have any grape-on-grape direct contact, you have very little disease pressure. So you've got airflow throughout not only the vine, but the bunches. So we don't have to do as heavy a pruning. We allow this to sit quite a while. It's not unusual for us to pick this in late November, where everybody in Sonoma has probably brought their Cabernet in by mid-August. So we get these 2 extra months of hang time, which gets us really great maturity, really soft skins, mature stems. So we can make this kind of ultra plush layered wine without really doing anything to it. I mean, this goes into neutral barrel for about 18 to 20 months and goes from barrel to bottle. So super simplistic in the winemaking detail, super labor intense in the vineyard because we're probably looking at a 35-degree slope here. And because, you don't have a whole lot of berries hanging on a bunch, We're getting less than 2 tons an acre, and that's a really, really good year. We're probably averaging 1.25 tons out of this vineyard. So tiny production, tiny amount of wine, but incredibly impactful. I just find that there's a savory quality that happens here. I kind of find it I think it's, if I was going to use one descriptor of Marietta wines in general, savory would be my word. But this one, you take that sip and your entire mouth starts to salivate. And I just find that this is crazy good. I think this wine has a 20+ year lifespan, but I don't feel guilty about popping a bottle because it's kind of crazy delicious right now too.
It is crazy delicious. 2017. So I think you're right. I mean, it's got some room to grow in the bottle. While drinking this, and this is not the first time drinking this, is probably my 5th or 6th time drinking this. This is a go-to for when I'm wanting a big red, but not, just like you said, not wanting to spend $70 to $150 to $200 a bottle to get that. This is that rock star Cabernet that you want to bring and put down the table, and everybody just thought you spent a fortune and you didn't. So especially tonight where we're sub $40 plus discounts, this is an amazing deal. It only lasts a short period of time. So Brian, don't get too concerned. This is not an everyday price.
Well, there's not a lot to be had.
And there's not a lot to be had.
I mean, every since we've had this wine, we sell out immediately. I mean, Brian he said, I mean, when he says they don't make a lot of it, I can attest to that as a wholesaler, because, you know, we as sales reps basically have to fight tooth and nail. As soon as we see the Marietta truck arrive on the dock, we're like, how much Game Trail's tucked away back there? We don't get a lot of it, but what we get, we tend to sell through pretty quickly. But what I didn't know, 95% of the appellation was you guys. But I think a fun anecdote, I think someone asked one time what the Game Trail meant. And I believe the Bilbros have a hunting lodge up there. Maybe it was before wine was even considered, because, again, think of Mendocino, it's kind of still, to some degree, the Wild West when it comes to viticulture. I know the Russian River, Anderson Valley and Donnelly Creek and some of those other areas are more established, but more for Pinot and Chard. But I didn't realize just how it's just bordered on those areas. And that high elevation, and that's what's so great about it. One of the key words that, you know, Howe Mountain or Mount Veeder or Spring Mountain uses, hey, we're high elevated. And as you said, hey, we are too. So to me, what makes you want to take another sip or a bite of food is acidity. This wine has it in spades. And I know when Brian said it, maybe it just led the witness, but, you know, if you guys love Napa Cabernet, I mean, just everything from the savory note to that, you know, that earthy mushroom kind of thing to that blue-black fruit. I mean, it really has everything in spades and drinking fantastically right now, which is, hey, at the end of the day, that's why we love California, especially Napa Cabernet, right?
Yeah. Catherine wants to know, would this pair well with her roasted lamb that she's having on Easter dinner for Easter dinner?
It is perfectly suited. You know, I mean, when I say Bordeaux, or particularly when I just said Chateau Margaux, I don't know that anything but lambs and chanterelles would be in my head as to what I was going to drink. And if you hold up that Game Trail label, TC had mentioned that there was a hunting lodge on that property. There still is. And if you look in the second delta there on that Marietta label, that is a silhouette of a chanterelle. And so the Bilbros do absolutely use it to hunt mushrooms, boar, and deer. We actually have fenced in the vineyard in this property. The property is pretty large. I think it's about 1,000 acres. But there's only about 40 planted to grapes because it is incredibly intense to try to get grapes into this ground because it's nothing but rock and shale. But there's really good hunting there, but we have to keep all those critters out of the vineyard because they can take an acre a night.
Oh, man. No. I can't believe it. And Holly just commented, and so I just want to answer this one. When ordering, how do you show your wine club member? You put it in the coupon code. You'll put Cellar if you're in the Cellar Club, Estate in the Estate Club, or Reserve if you're in the Reserve or Grand Reserve, and get your club member discounts on top of the amazing deal that you're already getting tonight. So, Holly, thanks for saying, because I realized I hadn't said that. I just kept on saying wine club discounts, but thank you for reminding me on how to do that.
Well, and guys, I don't want to hard sell anyone, but and we can double check inventory, but this is the one, and really the Gibson block too. I mean, these. They don't make a lot of them because they're using these old vines, as Brian said. What was it, like a 1.5 tons an acre? I mean, articulate. We've mentioned Napa a few times. A small production vineyard Napa is 4 to 6 tons an acre, which is considered small, and it is small, but 1 to 1.5, unless you own the land or you can do these areas that you have the foresight to plant 40 years ago in a hunting lodge. Just for now it's kind of paying dividends. Guys, be here now. Be the first one to get it before this wine. I mean, this wine should be, and it will be at some point $50, $60, $70+ but be the one. Lot number 9, I think, commenter there. So I remember drinking Game Trail when no one knew about it. It was $38 a bottle. So
yeah, you got a deal. I got a deal on this virtual show, because that's what you're getting tonight. You're getting a great deal. And again, Catherine, you almost make me. I see the lamb shanks right now, and I'm just wanting to dive into it. So
a little bit of rosemary. Just hold your glass up to this right here. I just want to look at the color of this right here. So
let's make sure we get it. Don't pour it on the laptop.
I know, and this. We're not doing it justice here, but this is just beautiful, deep, dark. Just love the color.
Violet? Is it violet?
It's definitely violet. Very much so violet.
So this is actually new to me. I have never had this wine, so I'm really, really excited. Because I can tell you right now, I've been drinking a lot of Syrah, Petite Syrah, recommending it to folks right now, because I just think it's growing really well in California, and I think people are passing it over and just sticking to their cabs and not branching out and doing some of these other wines. So let's dive in to the Gibson.
So I'll touch on California Syrah a little bit first, because about 10 years ago, I started a winery, and actually it was more than that. It was 2006 we started, and we probably at the time had the worst game plan ever, and that was to make Mendocino Pinot Blanc and Syrah. And so we released our first vintage, headed into a recession. But what we wanted to accomplish was co-roti, and so we just used Cornas. So we just used these 2 clones, 383 and 174, which are Cornas clones, and we crushed it by foot, and we put it all into neutral barrel. The wine was great. We got super pressed, but people just didn't drink it because they just weren't yet ready to understand Syrah in America. And at that point in time, the Australian version of the varietal was super popular and incredibly inexpensive. And I think California made a mistake initially by trying to make Syrah taste and act like Cabernet. And in turn, when you have a wine like Syrah that carries higher acidity than Cabernet naturally, people got turned off to the whole idea, because you had this angular, woody, acidic wine that didn't make a whole lot of sense in the mouth. Fast forward to Gibson, which is the oldest piece of property that we own. I think the first picture that you showed was Gibson block. So these are single standing, untrellised, 8-foot tall Syrah vines that were planted in the 1880s. They're dry farmed, they're organically farmed, and this is just, I think, a beautiful expression of what California can give you in Syrah. This wine is large, right? But it's, again, there's no thickness here. It has this medium weight in your mouth, and I don't get heavy tannin here. I get definitely chewiness, but it's from ripeness. It's not from green, unripe tannin. The other thing is this soil lends almost this like crunchy, graphite-y I mean, you almost smell lead pencil in the nose, which is incredibly attractive to me because this is true terroir driven kind of stuff. This isn't stuff that winemakers can cause. It's stuff that's coming absolutely from the ground into the vine.
Yeah, I mean, well, and to your point, Brian, I think right around that time you were saying starting a winery. Let's say the sideways effect. Right after Pinot, Syrah was supposed to be the next big thing, and for whatever reason, for like as you just mentioned, didn't. But for people like me that always loved the Rhone Valley, loved Northern Rhone, loved Syrah, I'm like, well, it's okay. Keep paying $100, $150, $200 for the aforementioned wineries. You'd mentioned Ovid, Colgan, and some of these other ones that you have to wait for 6 years, or even, frankly, even if you love the Rhone Valley, the stuff that the Saint-Equinons of the world are making, right? What I love so much about Syrah is when people say, Cabernet, I can name that tune in 8 to 10 tones, almost around the globe. But Syrah, I need 15 to 20 adjectives, and not to say that means it's better than Cabernet. As you said, it just has this wild, untamed thing. Cabernet is like East Coast Gary Cooper wearing a suit. Syrah's like John Wayne out west, like with like saddlebags. I mean, it's always like untamed, just has this untamed quality. And as Brian said, it's something that the winemaker, they can only hope to, as the French say, élevage, right? I mean, just take it, be a midwife and showcase it, and you really can't. There's no manipulating those flavors, and as the old vine and Syrah together, I mean, guys, this is just an unbelievable wine, I think, for what it is. I know, pay more if you want for some of the big name Cabernets that get the press, but this I'll be drinking this while you spend all your money on those wines. So
no, this is absolutely delicious. Yep. Exactly the thing that I would recommend to get some people off of cab to go, hey, try something different tonight. I think you're going to be just as happy. And this is one, especially at this price point. This is
well, it's a beautiful.
Stellar.
As you mentioned, the acidity, it can go with so many different foods. But what I love about Syrah, and we mentioned Pinot Noir, I mean, certainly two different styles, two different grapes, but the two grapes have a lineage in terms of some of their background, the acidity of the grapes versus, say, Cabernet and Merlot, which are their own kind of things. And I've done some classes in the past where there've been comparisons of Pinot and Syrah. Again, I'm not saying for tannins or the grapes, but for that acidity, the brightness, where they're grown, the earlier ripening, the cooler climate, right? And so that's what I love about Syrah, is that diversity, and it really saps up the terroir even more so than Cabernet, which can be exciting, but has a linear expression just about anywhere it's grown. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there, Brian, but go ahead.
No, I think that was perfect because, I love Cabernet, but I tend to drink Cabernet with really good, but incredibly simple, unmessed with food. I mean, a steak, mushrooms, great foil for Cabernet, right? Because it is a little linear. You're going to run out of adjectives pretty quickly. Syrah will support complexity, whether it's Mexican or Indian or even intricate French, where you're dealing with a deep reduction. Syrah has something to add to those dishes because you have multiple layers, really great depth, amazing complexity, and this combination of fruit and ground character that Syrah tends to bring with it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, everything that we've done tonight under $40. I mean, we've had some gems under $20, but these are the two wines, guys. I mean, I don't know. Everyone has a wine budget, but depending on what yours is, these are the two wines, the Game Trail and the Gibson, I think really just personify just what these guys are doing, and from unique areas. I mean, again, you bring over a wine from Mendocino. Most people have probably never had wine from Mendocino, which is unfortunate. Definitely not Cabernet. And then Syrah from the 1880s, that's just as beautiful, deep, dark, and complex. And under $40, forget about it.
Forget about it. And I'm going to tell you, this, we can't stress this enough. Maybe you get one bottle of the Game Trail or one bottle of you start your Easter dinner with that, and then make sure you grab a couple of the others that are a little bit more budget friendly for that next bottle and the next bottle. And you're going to have one incredible Easter where you're going to come back into the Loaded Grape and go, might have been my favorite Easter of all time because those wines were stellar, because that's what these are. And this is a brand that we fell in love with at the Loaded Grape very early. I want to say it was like the second or third wine club we were already using the Zin, because it's just incredible. And really, this is one we'll probably be coming back and probably if there's enough of it, that Gibson's going to go on a wine club at some point, because that is absolutely a wine that people need to be introduced to so they know about amazing California Petit Syrah. It's there. It's in the bottle. It's absolutely delicious.
Well, and I'm going to put Christophe and maybe Brian on the spot too. Hopefully, maybe as things open up and vaccinations and things are trending the right way, Charleston's not that far away. Charlotte's not that far away. Once we get you guys out and about, these guys will definitely set up something great for you. And maybe we even talk about maybe some back vintage stuff, if that's even possible, because I know you guys have a very anxious and eager crowd to do some events. So they love Marietta. They love you guys up here. So thank you so much for taking the time and talking about all these wines tonight with us.
You bet. I would love to come up. I would love to come up there and spend some time. Get my second shot next week, and I am prepared to travel.
Awesome. Well, when things open up, maybe we'd use Marietta for one of the dinners.
It could be. We'll talk off. Get some emails going on, and we'd love to get you guys up.
Use it for one of our dinners. We'll do either summer or fall, or probably fall, because these wines would be excellent with kind of some fall decor, fall meals. We can get a lot of fun stuff. Brian, thank you so much for your time tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Christophe on. We'll do a recap with Christophe, and this way you can go have dinner, spend time with the family.
Get some barbecue.
Yeah, get. I mean, you're in Charleston. I know there's good barbecue in Charleston. So there is. Oh man.
Yes, there is. And there's a smoker. There's a smoker right behind my office door here. So
awesome.
In the meantime, a bottle a day is all we ask, folks.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we got to up those averages. I mean, we can't lag behind. We're so far behind on the globe. I mean, USA's got to be number one in everything, right? I mean, the Italians are drinking, and the French,
they're out drinking.
Christophe, I mean, I think 14 gallons a year the French are versus like 3 gallons for the Americans. I mean, shock and blue. I mean, those are rookie numbers. We need to get those numbers up, man.
What?
Uh-oh, is Christophe muted?
I think he's muted himself.
Is he muted?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think Christophe made a fantastic point, but he's muted. Is he? Can we hear him?
Oh no, it's on his end.
Uh-oh.
No, we can't hear you.
Can you still hear us, Brian?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I think Christophe said something very prophetic.
Very pathetic.
We can't.
Prophetic.
After a few glasses, it all meshes. It all meshes together. So. But again, thank you guys so much. If any last questions, I don't know.
Well, Christophe, don't go anywhere. We'll try to get your mic right, because I want to do a recap with you. But we'll let Brian go and enjoy the rest of his night. Maybe get something on that smoker. Pull some ribs out or just a quick little butt. I'm sure you have in the freezer, and get that all smoked up tonight. But thank you so much for your time. Look forward to having you up in the shop and doing an event of some sort. And we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. We're going to pop this guy on your guys' direction, and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Cheers.
All right, Christophe, we got to figure out how to get you unmuted. So I think you muted your mic on your end, because it's not muted on the show.
Yep.
No? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
So, Christophe, what did you say when you came back on? Because it sounded like it was a very good point.
And I was just saying that, unfortunately, in France, the government put the French population, majority of the French population, in a third confinement, a third quarantine. So the drinking average is going to continue going up.
Oh yeah, we are far behind. But I hear the Vatican City, if you technically look at countries, is the highest. But I mean, that's kind of unfair. I mean, I guess they have to. But then the thing is, the French and the Italians. But we're like so far behind, man. I mean, it's all. I mean, and I say that to people because they laugh because they're wine drinkers. But guys, For every one of you, they're like 10 PBR drinkers. So we need to convert these PBR drinkers. Old Vine Red Rosé first, I get it. And then eventually to some Game Trail and some Gibson Block,
Well, we're going to do a recap really quick with you, and then we'll send everybody off because I'm sure they're watching some basketball. Next week's show, I'm trying to work on the name because every time I come up with a name, but basically we're going to play off the whole, championship game since it's next Monday night as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've been playing with either like Game Changers or Ballers or Big Gamers, and we'll talk about that off and we'll get that name set up for next week's show. But it's going to have a theme around big game or big winery kind of concept. So we'll put that together for next week. But you're the man. You're bringing it to market to us. So as we go through this, you give us a quick little rundown of why you love these wines and why you we're bringing these in. And we'll start with the rosé, which again, 90 some points, Wine Spectator plus the San Francisco Chronicle Wine Festival winner of rosé. Just absolutely awesome, amazing.
So it could be resumed in really simple sentence: it's purity of fruit. That when a wine is good, the fruit isn't altered by any type of artificial, complements. So this wine is what you'd expect a Mediterranean rosé to be like. It's fresh, it's crisp. It just is a very good aperitif type wine. You don't really need food for this rosé, but if you do, it'll match with a lot of stuff. So OVR Rosé, as I mentioned earlier in the show, 2020 has just been released. It's a very small part of what Marietta does, but it is significant enough that we are bringing it to the East Coast. So probably, and then Brian could tell me exactly, but it's less than 2,000 cases. It's not a big production. It's enough that we're able to spread it around a little bit, but not enough to carry a vintage for a full year. The OVR Red and the OVR Rosé are both also available in kegs for those of you who have home keg units. And what's great about those kegs is that they are 19.5 liters, which is about close to 670 ounces of wine. It's about almost 27 bottles.
Wow.
Yeah, about 110 glasses of wine or so. Yeah, give or take.
Exactly. And what's great about the keg is that as long as you have it tapped, the wine will stay fresh.
Hey, and Christophe, it's a lot greener, right? You're saving bottles, saving corks, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And these are recyclable kegs too. I mean, I'm sorry, they're throwaway kegs. They are you don't have to,
you have to return. There's no deposit. There's none of that.
Exactly.
That's really cool. We got these bottles down to from 18 down to 16 on both the rosé and the red. So let's talk about the red really quick. Lot number 71. I know some folks that were watching today were drinking lot 9. Holy moly! So that's what a night that
old
was
school, right?
For them. Really, don't sleep on this one. This one is absolutely delicious. All the old vines making this. And Christophe, tell us a little bit more. Why what you love about this one?
Well, okay, so I love the drinkability of this wine. It's a no-brainer. It's a wine that you can have cocktail hour. The fruit is super friendly and forward. This is not something that you need to have with food, but you could certainly carry that bottle over from aperitif to the dinner table. I love that. I love that the what do you say? How do you say it in English? It's a versatility of that wine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's your bistros. I mean, this is a bistro wine. This is a classic. You don't need you don't have to break out your fancy Riedel glass. Just whatever you have DVR, warm up some pizza, throw a little salad together, warm up some tater tots. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Christophe knows we have a great little tater tot story, but anyway, we won't go there tonight. but still, I mean, this goes with everything in a broad net, So
I should mention early in the conversation, Brian mentioned that the OVR was produced to the average of 2 different lot per year. This year will be slightly bit different because we had short vintages, and so we will be moving on to lot 72 probably in the course of the next several months, and before the holidays we'll probably move on to lot 73, which will mark a slight departure. The wine will probably be a little bit more elegant.
Oh,
yeah. Aromatics, lifted aromatics, and more rounded and an elegant approach to this one. So if you like the style will still be there. It'll still be dominant Zinfandel. But as Brian was saying, it uses several different varieties. Some year and some not that don't go in the blend. Like Barbera, for example, doesn't always go in the blend. Yeah, we're excited for what the future will bring. Scott has really taken on his father's mantle, and also has taken a departure from this bigger, more maybe fruit-forward extracted wines to more elegant wines. The wines, he's been making the wines for the past several years with his father. His father passed away last year. So he's really taken on a lot. The reason why we became his U.S. agent and why Brian was brought along is so Scott could concentrate on production, and that's very important to him. So it's going to be his legacy, and he's going to be at the helm of Marietta Cellars for a long time before his kids take over.
Well, that's what I love about this wine is it's like your local pizzeria. You know, the reason you go there versus some of the major chains is the nuance. Yes, they have the same items, but, you know, depending who's back there, depending on the vintage, depending on the blend, you know, they're going to make a great product. They're not going to make a subpar product, but there's that subtle nuance that goes, okay, this was, and it makes you going back. And that's what I love about it, guys. I mean, you could really, for not a lot of money, for $16, as Christophe just said, we're going to be going into several lot numbers very quickly. So you can do, in other words, sort of a vertical lot number, if you will, tasting very quickly of wines that are all sub $20, old vine from 3-generation wine growers. So again, I just think this wine again over delivers, capital O. This is the home run of the night. I mean, this is something that you don't have to add.
Capital O.
Capital O. There
capital
you go.
So yeah,
don't over deliver. That's what it means. It's not old vine red. Over
delivering vine red. Vine red. Now, we'll talk about the Zin, the Roman Zin. Again, mostly Zin at 92% on the 2018. 4% Petite Syrah, 4% Barbera, and again, this has been a staple at the Loaded Grape since pretty much since we opened. So.
Yeah, Roman is an exceptional wine. If you're big Zinfandel fans and like a more restrained type of wine, a Roman will give you all that you're looking for in a Zin, minus the very high alcohol content that you see in other regions. You know, I like that this is site specific, and like I said, a very approachable style. The same could be said about the two versions of Cabernet Sauvignon and the Rhone blends, Armé and Game Trail, and Courteaud and Gibson blocks. These are basically snapshot of a vintage for Armé and Courteaud, and super vineyard specific for Game Trail and Gibson block. You know, you cannot emphasize enough the dry farming, the organic nature of the fruit, the very low yields coming from very old vine. I said ancient vine and vines in one of my comments that I posted. I don't know if anybody saw it, but it's just I think this is everything that maybe some of the other parts of California I've forgotten. I don't know if you were in and around during the 90s when the craze the Cabernet craze came about, and some Valley Cabernets were highly rated, or ended up on the front page of a glossy magazine, and from one vintage to the next, the wine went up 35-40% in price. You know, you can't. I want to bring it back here to the fact that Marietta Cellars is a super value in the wine world, and especially in California, where nowadays wines tend to be wines of texture, you know, of standing, tend to be very expensive.
Absolutely.
And these are not tonight. These are very budget friendly. Great
and then
wine,
you've done
great
it again. Then you've done it again, cutting your margins and offering your guests tonight an unbelievable value, because you can certainly shop around, but you won't find the type of value that Danny has to offer here with the Loaded Grape.
Yeah.
So
that's why we do virtual vines. We're trying to give everybody an opportunity to get some wines at amazing prices. It's not the price that's every day. It's really for the show and throughout the rest of the week, and that's it. Then the sale goes away, and you know, until we do these wines again or something else, you're just not going to get these deals. And this is a winery in which you know, kind of I hold a little bit more dear to my heart, only because it's family owned, it's family operated. You know, they're not hiring farm hands. They're literally paying people all the time to work the farm. There's so much dedication and love for what they do and what they produce. You know, this isn't, hey, let's just slap a sticker on it, slap a price on it, and get it out the door and make some money. I think when Brian was saying that the Old Vine Red and the Old Vine Rosé are really there to kind of bump up some sales, so they have a little cash flow, so they can have more fun and play with more nuance in the Gibson and in the Game Trail and in the Christo, in the Army. Those you know, we did Army a couple months ago. The Army cab blend there, and it sold very, very well for us. So. Again, this is anybody that tastes it, they love it.
This is a real brick and mortar winery, you know, and in 2020, like a lot of other wineries, they've suffered a lot from the glass fire and the fires, the wildfires of California, and we'll have enough inventory to have a significant 2019 release, but 2020 is horrible. There's basically zero fruit. So enjoy the 18 vintage, which you have in the glass, the 17 on a single vineyard. You'll have 18 and 19, and then 20 will be catastrophic for us. Mm-hmm. But and the OVR red will still be produced, but in slightly smaller quantity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We didn't taste it tonight, but we did talk about it because it was in the wine club. The Christo, which come to find out, I didn't know it was named after his dad, which is what a great honor for that, to have that legacy, and not to mention on a bottle that drinks way above its weight class. You know, when Brian was bringing up the fact that he was on a call with somebody who buys a lot of Chateauneuf de Pop and said, "Wow, this might be one of my favorite wines," and it's coming at a price point that's not Chateauneuf de Pop and coming out of California. It really is an absolutely amazing Rhone blend, and our wine club members know it because they got it home. I'm surprised some people aren't drinking it tonight. Actually, not, because they probably drank the bottle they had already because it's so good. So be sure to add one of these in the cart, because again, you're looking at almost sub $20 to be, if you're in the club, to get, you know, what a great deal that is.
Mm. Well, Christo is definitely in terms of a comparative wine with the Rhone Valley is a super value. If you go in Gigondas, a real good Gigondas is going to cost you $30 minimum, and a middle of the road Chateauneuf de Pop is very rarely going to be less than $40. So you know, it's modeled after it. It example of these appellations, but it definitely has this California identity. It has an approach that is very similar to the winemaking of Southern Rhone. His DNA is definitely California, but it is delicious. And as a Frenchman who drinks a lot of Rhone wine, I could tell you I really enjoy a bottle of Courteaud as well.
Yeah, very good.
And then we went over to the game trail. Oh, wrong one. I clicked the wrong one. The game trail. This Cabernet, 100% Cabernet, out of Yorksville.
New appellation. Yeah, new appellation right beside Anderson Valley.
When he was starting to talk about, like the Clone 6 and who else is using Clone 6, and you start, names like Harlan, and I was like, what? Are you kidding? Like that's like. What? I mean, that's several $100s a bottle.
Did he show you? Did he show you a picture of the vines?
I think you put one up. I think I might.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
I'll put this up.
These are ridiculous vines.
Let me add it to the stream so people can see it. Look at those.
I mean, they are ancient, and they are wicked looking. Yeah, and they are so producing.
I would say I grew up in apple country. It almost looked like an apple tree.
I know, doesn't it?
So,
but the dry farming, the poor soil. I mean, you cannot invent it. It's you put the right plant in an area that will be not just suitable, but will make the vine struggle to live and give the vine an opportunity to produce fruits of great character. I mean, this is there's not a lot of sites like this, but when you find the sites, you nurture it. And so the Bilbros are really good tenants of that land, and they're making a remarkable wine. The Game Trail, I mean, you could blindfold Game Trail in a lineup of wines that are, like we say, $50-$60. People will be easily fooled to think that it's at least that much. So again, kudos to you offering it at $38 a bottle. I think it's a super value. I think that you should definitely be proud of putting that type of wine in front of your customers, and they should feel lucky that they're able to buy something like that. It's easy to buy a wine of from maybe a more renowned appellation that is around that price, but this is Yorkville. This is not Napa.
But
you get a beautiful wine.
Yeah, I'll probably say that Napa is getting so expensive to farm, to own property. The fires has been that these little sub appellations or even new areas are going to start being the value where you get that Napa style just without the price tag. And this is a perfect example of
high elevation,
right? I was gonna say
late ripening, family owned. I mean, these checks all the boxes.
High end clone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
all the boxes that you want.
It has,
as climate change continues to affect, wine regions of the world, high elevation vineyards and hillside vineyards are going to be becoming more and more prominent because of the cooler temperatures, and the sun exposure and the fog patterns and all that that may affect some of the hillsides. You'll see that those valley floor wineries will not be able to continue, producing the same wines there now. 20 years from now, 30 years, when I'll be dust and in the ground, I don't know that Napa Valley will be continuing with Cabernet. They may move on to something more drought resistant and certainly more heat resistant. Maybe not 30 years. Who knows? But the wine is definitely going to be, the wine world is definitely going to be evolving. And this like you were saying, TC, this high elevation hillside planting vineyards they're already wines of great character, but they're going to be sought after for years to come.
And then lastly, we did the Marietta Gibson, and this is new to me. And holy moly, did it knock my socks off! Beautiful, beautiful Syrah. And I, like I said, I've been recommending some Syrah to folks when they come in, especially California Syrah, and people have been drinking it, and they're going, "Wow, you're right, thanks." Because they'll ask me, pick me out something that's a little different. I've been picking some Syrahs, PT Syrahs, and they're like, yes, that's different. And man, am I enjoying this bottle. I never would have grabbed that. I stop on the shelf here. I don't go down the shelf here. And this Gibson, whoa, like.
It's a big baby though.
Yeah.
No doubt. This will benefit from a couple years laying down. I don't think there's any, I have no issues with drinking it now because it is a 2017 vintage. But I'm saying if you are an amateur of putting new wines away, put this one bottle away for a few years. Buy a few bottles and drink one and for the holidays, and keep the next few bottles for a subsequent year. You will thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, these Rhone varieties wines are known to age gracefully in bottle. So again, they're not young vines, so I think the fruit has already a lot of substance, and the texture of the wine is exceptional. I think that the bottle aging will even do better to this wine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and what I love about it is, again, shop vintage if you have to. You mentioned 2020 coming up is obviously devastating for California, but 17, if you're a Europhile, 17 outside of like maybe vintage port, wasn't a great year for Burgundy. It wasn't really a great year for France in general, right? Jury's to be cited, but still, think of Burgundy. Burgundy was down. Things like that. But this right here, if I'm not mistaken, this particular area, at least for 17, was spared basically any fires or anything else. I know the past 3-4 years, depending on where you are, has had fires to some degree or the other. The 17 is just drinking unbelievable. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, buy now. I guess if I'm what's his name, Ben Affleck in Boiler Room. This is the wine you buy now, guys. I hate to hard sell. This is the wine in the game trail. I don't have a lot of. There's not a lot of wine to be had. Buy now, because guys, when you buy now and a week later you drink it, you're gonna call Danny and say, I want a case, and Danny's gonna say, guess what? TC called me, and I'm like. And you're going to say, I don't think you're like, how much do I have to buy?
I don't even think there's a case. I don't even think you have beyond what
we're getting some more. I think the second week of April, maybe.
Yeah. So right now,
game trail, but not a lot of wine to be had.
Yeah. So I think what I have in the shop right now is what we have of the Gibson, and so
I should tell you for full disclosure that I did another tasting last week, and that was also a start of the show. And if you have demand for some of this wine, the answer is we have some more at the winery. We don't have a lot at the winery, but we will special order it. TC will make sure the wine comes. I would like to say that whatever's coming in, TC is already spoken for.
So I understand, because it's. You got to jump on these wines quick. Because like I said, we
mentioned. What we were saying, it is a 17, and yes, we have a little bit left. So if someone is interested in putting a 6-pack away, and you could special order it without any issues, we'll deliver it.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, so that's it. You heard it. If you want a 6-pack, I can get it to you. So we'll it just won't be for Wednesday. Just won't be for Wednesday. So so if you're loving on this, we can try to put a package together and get in touch with Christophe on how many bottles we would need to get, and we'll make it happen. Just won't not be for Wednesday.
But a couple 6-packs of the Game Trail and Durham minus what you have. So
yeah. So I got about 18 bottles ish available on the trail. So
right. And we moved on to 18 Armé. I don't know if this is what we were showcasing, right?
We didn't do any Armé.
No.
Oh, you didn't. Just in case somebody asked, the 17 Armé is totally depleted. 18 is now in full distribution, and it's not a super long vintage. But if there are some demands, just need to know that in 2018 Armé is also available. If they prefer a lighter version of Cabernet.
All right, perfect.
Well, Christophe, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we'll get you in the shop. You're about to get your second shot, so we'll get you in the shop. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, April 1st for me. So hey, man, hopefully. We'll just it'll be like a respite. It'll be like seeing old friends again, right?
Well, and maybe in the comments, maybe we do another live show, but we have Christophe in a live audience show, and we have Christophe in on the show as our guest.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
we do that. So let us know in the comments if that's something you guys would like to see. We can put that together because I have a feeling we're still going to be at a little bit of a capacity issue of opening up and doing a straight tasting just for a little bit longer here in North Carolina. But I feel like, maybe by July, we might be open. I don't know. But
we'll find a field somewhere. We'll have a Woodstock.
Yeah, we'll have a Woodstock.
And wine.
But Christophe, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate having you on the show and lining up Brian to be a part of the show tonight too. So thank you so much for doing that. And we'll see you soon.
Christophe, thank you so much, man. Have a good night.
And Danny, TC, have a great evening. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. All right, see you, buddy.
Bye.
All right, so we're wrapping up here. Put your orders in right now on any of those. Finish it up because there's not a lot of quantity, so you don't want to wait on this. And guys, next week again, we're going to play off the basketball theme since it is a championship game. I'm fingers crossed. The Gonzaga's in it. And therefore we'll be ending the show really quick because I'm going to want to watch that game. I think tip-off's at the same time. So it'll be a shorter show. I can tell you, we might only do 4 wines, but there'll be 4 stellar wines instead of doing 5 because I want to get everybody get to the game if they want to watch it. Mm-hmm. And then also, what was I going to say? If the dinner is going gangbusters, folks. So only 30 spots, and I don't even think I have 15 left. So it is going gangbusters. And that blind tasting in the shop on April 18th, 3 different seatings. We do have a lot of availability there, but that dinner is filling up for April 28th. So don't sleep on that if that's something you want to do. TC, my buddy, will be there pouring Spanish wine for you and talking all about the Spanish reasons. Olé. Well, maybe there's going to be...
And why you should be drinking more Spanish wine.
Exactly, and we're going to pull out some gems, and the menu is going to be absolutely amazing. I've already started talking about the menu. That will be out probably in the next week, a week and a half. I'll have the menu officially out, but I think that the dinner will be sold out by the time I get the menu out. So don't wait.
It is a tapas. Some people already said topless. It is fully. It is not topless.
It's tapas.
That's whatever you want to do. I mean, it might be it will be a private party at some point. So I mean, again, there's always the one person. So. But no, it's going to be a fun night, guys. And as Christophe mentioned, high elevated vineyards, some of the highest elevated vineyards in Europe and are organic. Actually, Spain has the most organic vineyards undervined anywhere else in the globe. So again, just so many superlatives, more than I can talk about right now. But make sure you tune in because it sounds like in the next week we're going to sell out.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll highlight some of our friends from Emilio Moro or Victor Ordonez. Some of our friends. We have friends now in the Spanish wine business. So we got to show that some love. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday night, 7:30 for Virtual Vines. And as always, TC.
Hey, for Vanna Vines off camera, for taking care of the dogs, Mr. Danny, for Andy, new Papa, keep on tasting. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.